The Momo Uprising, Kenya's war for land and liberation. A revolutionary struggle against colonial rule in the heart of British East Africa and the heart of colonial Kenya. A powerful rebellion shook the foundations of British imperialism, known as the Momo Uprising. This armed struggle, fought primarily by the Kikuyu people, was far more than a revolt. It was a cry for land, freedom, and dignity in the face of dispossession, forced labor, and racial domination. Though long suppressed and misunderstood, the Momo movement played a critical role in the fight for Kenyan independence and the unraveling of the British Empire in Africa, colonial dispossession, and the roots of resistance. After the British declared Kenya a colony in 1920, large tracts of fertile land were expropriated and redistributed to white settlers, mostly in the central highlands, known as the White Highlands. Indigenous communities, especially the Kikuyu, were forcibly displaced, confined to native reserves, and subjected to harsh labor systems, taxes, and identity. Despite petitions, protests, and growing nationalism, peaceful efforts were continually ignored or violently suppressed. By the late 1940s, frustration boiled into organized resistance, particularly among young Kikuyu veterans of World War II, who had returned with new political awareness but no land or rights. The rise of Momo. By 1951, an underground movement later dubbed Momo had begun organizing secret oaths, stockpiling weapons, and planning revolt. Its core was made up of Kikuyu peasants and urban workers, though some Mbu and Meru also joined. In October 9, the Momo launched coordinated attacks on white-owned farms and colonial collaborators. Brutal suppression by the British. The British launched a massive military and security operation to crush the rebellion. Over 50,000 British troops, African loyalists, militias, and colonial police units were deployed. The Momo fighters, known as Land and Freedom Army, operated largely from the Aberdare and Mount Kenya forests, waging a guerrilla war. The colonial government responded with indiscriminate violence, mass arrests, forced resettlement, torture, and the establishment of detention camps. One of the most infamous sites was Hola Camp, where detainees were subjected to brutal conditions and an estimated 11,000 to 20,000 Momo fighters and civilians died, though the true toll remains debated. The war's outcome and lasting legacy. By 1956, the Momo movement had been militarily defeated, but its political impact was irreversible. The brutality of the British campaign drew international condemnation and weakened the legitimacy of colonial rule. More importantly, the uprising mobilized nationalist consciousness across Kenya. Within a few years, negotiations began for independence. Kenya achieved full sovereignty on December 12, 1963, with Jomo Kenyatta as its first prime minister. Ironically, many Momo veterans remained marginalized in the new Kenya, even as they had laid the foundation for its liberation. Recognition after decades of silence. For decades, the Momo were labeled as terrorists both by the British and the post-independence government. It wasn't until 2003 that the Kenyan government officially recognized Momo fighters as freedom heroes. In 2013, the UK government issued a formal apology and agreed to pay compensation to over 5,000 victims of colonial torture. Today, the Momo Uprising is remembered not just as an act of rebellion, but as a crucial step in Kenya's nationhood, a reminder of the price paid for freedom. Kenya's road to liberation. The Momo Uprising wasn't just a war, it was a turning point. It signaled the collapse of settler colonialism in East Africa and gave voice to the in the forests of Mount Kenya and the cells of colonial detention camps, the seeds of Kenyan sovereignty were sown. Though many of its fighters went unnamed and unsung, their legacy endures in every Kenyan flag raised and every story of struggle told.